Terrible Texans, maddening moves, and charismatic cultists tonight on Deep Fat Fried.
Deep Fat Fried!
Yep. Wow. That's how it go on the Deep Fat Fried Show.
The DFF Sumo sounds angry tonight. Did you hear him?
He should be.
He was like, Deep Fat Fried!
Yeah, usually he's much nicer.
Usually he's
more chill.
He's jolly almost.
So this is going to be live. Unfortunately, TJ is an incompetent piece of shit.
It has nothing to do with me.
It has everything to do with you. Everything to do with you, TJ. Let's just be honest.
I've never in my life gone on XSplit and it's been like, YouTube API limit exceeded.
You know what,
Try
TJ?
again after midnight Pacific time.
Hey, Paul, let's just do a quick poll. Who here thinks TJ runs the show? Whose fucking fault is it then, TJ?
Dude, I've been on plenty of shows where the person running it takes no responsibility, all right? So I'm just saying.
I wish I knew what show you were talking about, but
I don't know.
I'm confused.
Me too.
So some crazy fucking shit happened in y'all's life.
Well, before even that,
I
want to get in just briefly.
A special song.
I want to. So Ted Cruz, you guys remember Ted Cruz, right?
Yes.
Yes.
The Weasley fuck.
Weasel face, teen titty film, porn loving bastard, Ted Cruz, wanted to be president real bad.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
didn't quite make it.
Trump called him Lion Ted one time too many, and he wasn't able to win.
Can you fault him, though, for liking teen titty films? I mean, I do agree with Ted Cruz on that.
Paul, do you want to pimp your new series you got coming out pretty soon?
Oh, yeah, man. I'm going to do like a DTube exclusive series called Teen Titty Films, where I look at all these weird, like, Skinamax softcore porn movies. I want to see if there's anything, like, they have to offer, because, you skim past many of them.
So anyway, I'm sure they have something to offer, Paul.
Ted Cruz turned out a new campaign ad because he's running for Senate. He's trying to regain. He's trying to maintain his Senate seat.
Trying to be reelected, dude.
Which is actually in more jeopardy than you might think, simply because a lot of Trump's policies are not as popular in Texas as you might expect. Anyway, this song is a song released by the Ted Cruz campaign, and I'm not going to play it in its entirety. I'm going to play it in little chunks, but here you go.
Here you know.
If you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man, 'cause liberal thought is not the spirit of a Lone Star man.
Yeah.
All right, so
it's already the laziest song I've ever heard written. If you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man, 'cause liberal thought is not the spirit of the Lone Star man.
It's not.
It's not even a shitty attempt at a poem.
It's rhyming. I hate anything that tries to rhyme with itself.
Yeah.
It rhymes man with man. I mean, it just doesn't work. The only other fucking person I always see rhyming shit with itself is fucking Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, she does that shit.
So did she write this?
You gotta be tough as Texas and honest about your plans. If you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man.
Wow.
So I guess liberals are not honest about their plans.
If you're gonna be a liberal, don't come to fucking Texas. That's what I'm hearing. Holy shit.
I'm hearing just a stupid fucking song.
How is this evocative of Ted fucking Cruz in any way, though?
Dude,
is what I want to know.
You know what? All you need to know about the song is you just skip to the part where Ted Cruz approves the song.
Hold on. I mean, there's not much. I mean, it's a short song.
Yeah, there's not much left.
Let me just put a picture of Ted Cruz up as we're listening to the song.
Oh, yeah.
An unmolested image of Ted Cruz.
So you can just kind of see.
See if you can find that one where he had that weird booger on his lip that he ate. Remember that? I think that's why he didn't become president right there. He had that, like, he regurgitated like a booger at some point. And
there it is. All right, hold on.
Oh, dude, it's gross.
Dangling.
I got to just put this on the screen for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Get it up there, TJ. Oh, my God. Look at this disgusting freak. Look at that booger on his lip.
That is a booger. By the way, he eats it.
He does, dude. He fucking
Spoiler.
reached out with his tongue and ate that
He
booger.
just reaches right out with his tongue like that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You know, maybe
Booga.
Alex Jones had a point about the reptilians, dude.
All right, hold on.
I remember reading stories. Liberal Robert wanted to fit in, so he changed his name to Beto and hit it with a grin.
All right, pause it. I'll pause it. Pause it. Pause
He
it.
wants
Hold
those open borders and he wants to take our guns. Not a chance on earth he'll get a vote from millions of Texans.
All right.
Okay, so the first part of that is liberal loving Robert wanted to fit in, so he changed his name to Beto and did it with a grin. So Beto's like a nickname for Roberto. So there's a... So
That's the guy, by the way.
So he... What?
He wants your fucking guns.
He wants to take your guns.
open borders.
And he wants wide open borders with the Mexicans.
Look, he doesn't want the wall.
Oh,
he
man,
does-
I can't tear my eyes away from that
I know.
booger on his
If you
lip,
don't want
dude.
the wall, Paul, then you're gonna fall.
Look at that fucking disgusting, gangly booger.
No, here's why this song is coming out, by the way. Because right now they're polling 45 to 37. So
In favor
it's-
of who?
in
Cruz.
favor of Cruz.
Okay, but it's closer than he wants
But-
it to be.
So Cruz is probably still gonna win.
The fact that he's leading by single digits as a Republican in Texas.
when is the election? being held?
18% are undecided at this point.
Oh shit, dude! That actually could go either way. Then
So there's a good chance that Ted Cruz will probably win this election,
probably.
but he's
Close.
actually being threatened by this guy right now. That's probably why this song is coming out.
I mean, even if I shared Ted Cruz's politics, I think this song would put me off of voting for his fucking ass.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. If I heard this song, I'd be like, he's trying to control me.
Yeah, this is the
man.
ultimate pander song. It's just like Texas, 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 and there's
Liberals are so bad.
there's nothing about Ted Cruz that's evocative of Texas. Nothing about him screams Texas. He's a short, weaselly little booger eater.
Yes, dude.
Like, you know what I mean?
Ted, don't you grow to that after you're 5? You stop eating your burgers when you're like 5 years old.
Hold
dude.
on, I'm gonna play a little bit more of the song because I want you guys to hear the contrast. I'm gonna go back a little in the song. So I want you to hear the
Texas.
contrast of the song versus his endorsement of the song.
Okay.
Take our guns. Not a chance on earth he'll get a vote from millions of Texans. If you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
I'm Ted Cruz. I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message. Yeehaw!
Some hot blonde babes.
I'm from Texas. I'm a strong Texan.
Holy shit. What a failboat, man. Yeah, the fact that he's actually going to squeak one out in Texas probably is even sadder. There are people out there that are like, yeah!
Dude, we've covered some stupid fucking politicians from Texas. What's the other guy, like Louis Gohmert or something?
Gohmert. Oh, my
God,
God.
he's awful.
He just got a name that sounds like he's a moron.
Oh, he is, dude. Like,
Gohmert.
I mean, Ted Cruz, he's a little weasel, but I wouldn't say he's a moron. Like, Louis Gohmert is a total fucking idiot that has no idea what's coming out of his fucking mouth.
Yeah. Ted Cruz is just a booger eater.
Booger eating,
Just a booger muncher, dude.
Yeah, why didn't Trump pull that one out when he was running against Ted Cruz? Like, look, he eats boogers.
Yeah,
Look at him.
a booger muncher. Booger munching Ted.
If you want to win in Texas, be a booger eating man. Get that booger on your lip and suck it down. I don't know.
Man.
Fuck, dude. I can't even handle it.
What a mess.
What a fucking mess.
God.
guys.
Speaking of messes,
Oh,
do you even want to fucking crack the fucking seal on this one?
I mean, we gotta do.
I mean, this, we
it's
really
gotta
want
be talked about.
We really wanted to just do this episode about, Jim Jones, Jonestown's massacre and shit, but TJ and Paul went through a fucking nightmare, to put it mildly.
I mean, it's not even like this is worse than a goddamn nightmare.
I mean, like, let's put it this way.
yeah, because nightmares
no one-
end.
Of everyone here and everyone we talked to and everyone that or anywhere we read or could find information, no one else has really heard of something like this happening.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. You want to start it, TJ?
I mean, okay. So we all decided, Scotty is going to go live with his girlfriend because they're getting married and they're starting a family, all that bullshit. He's got his little fucking faggoty wedding ring, all that. So they're doing that. We decided, we're going to move out because we don't really need this place anymore. We're going to move out. We're going to go somewhere else, So we look at some houses. We found this one real nice house kind of out in the country a little bit. Real good rent price. Couldn't get it, Found another house we liked. Couldn't get it. It just seemed like house after house kept falling through, and we finally found
for like nebulous reasons too. It wasn't like we didn't give it to you because of X. It was just like no.
Oh, dude, remember the one place that it was TJ's credit, and we ran his credit, and it was actually nothing bad. There was like a DirecTV bill from like 4 years ago that he had paid off.
So they're like, "Oh, your credit's bad."
So it's like
no.
what?
I get the feeling that we were experiencing some of that old storied Southern hospitality.
Oh yeah.
Googled your name and found out who you were, and we're like, nope.
Nah. Liberal. Also, I mean, or maybe just like their girlfriend's got colored hair, like some kind of hippies or something. They're probably gonna use this as a party house and a flop house.
Yeah, because Ashley and Chelsea did a lot of the running around on this shit, so they were like, nope, pink hair.
Pink hair, don't like it, buy it.
Pink hair equal transgender liberal.
You want to rent in Louisiana? Don't be a liberal man. I don't know. So anyway, we finally find this place, out in the countryside, big place,
Everything checks out.
A lot of land.
Reasonable rent, nice big space for the dogs to run around. You know what I mean?
Nice place.
Quiet so we could work at, like have all this space to ourselves. Private so we could shoot on this land anywhere we wanted.
There was a barn and shit. It wasn't finished, but it was like there's a nice little fucking barn, that they could have shot a lot of cool videos at.
Oh, yeah.
Just it was a nice piece of property. It was cool. A lot of cool shit around there. Like just a very chill spot.
So go to the fucking place. Look her over. Man, we love it. Oh, man, this is great. It's not chopped up in the best possible configuration ever, but it's workable.
Yep.
So we're like, yeah, this could be great. We call the fucking internet company, make sure we can get the right internet out there, all this other stuff. Everything seems cool. We get a fucking real estate guy to show us out around there. We mentioned to him, like, hey, we got some dogs. Because we kind of asked him, we wanted to ask him, like, hey, is this all fenced in, or what's the deal with this? He's like, oh, you have pets? And we're like, yeah, we got some dogs. He's like, oh, okay, we have to put down a pet deposit. Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, that's standard when you have a pet renting a place.
Now, no one ever mentioned the pet deposit after that, and of course, I ain't bringing it up,
Well, yeah, you got a million other fucking things going on in a move.
Sure. And so we start, I go over there, I meet the landlords. It's a couple lesbian chicks, So I'm like, okay, cool. Like these people, they ain't uptight. They're going to be all right because, they're a couple lesbians.
Yeah, living in the South. They understand what it's like to kind of be around here and not have this, not kind of fit into the politics and the culture.
Right. I mean, living in bumfuck Louisiana, no less.
So, I'm like, yeah, cool. All right, rock on. Couple lesbian landlords. That works for me. So, we get all the stuff done, get all the paperwork signed. We start getting our stuff packed over in this house that we're in right now. Move over there, get everything moved up there, everything set up, all the furniture set up. There's like maybe 2 or 3 things that need to be done. And Paul, I think I could hand you the baton because you were actually there when this shit happened.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else was packing up. Somebody needed to stay there with the movers and kind of tell them where shit was going and help with that. So I was there. And TJ calls me and he's like, hey, the landlady's going to come over and pick up a couple things she left on the property real quick. And I was like, cool. I'll meet her. So I was actually doing one of my stupid ideology streams when this happened. I was in the backyard, like showing everybody, like, oh yeah, check out this backyard, man. This is my new backyard. I'm talking about how excited I am to be living there, and how awesome it's going to be to have all that tranquility and peace and blah 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 blah. And then the lady shows up. So I, put the fucking phone down, put the stream down, and walked over to her and introduced myself and yada yada. And she's like, so yeah, are you going to be living upstairs or downstairs? And I was like, yeah, I'll be upstairs. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know you were going to be here. And immediately my mind was like, we have a problem. And she's like, I saw a couple of dog crates. Do you have dogs? So having struck out already on the this bitch apparently doesn't know I'm living there card, I was like, no, we used to have animals, but we got rid of them. But those are, big, nice dog crates, and our family has dogs. I might need them, whatever. I made up some bullshit. She's like, okay. So anyway, she acted like everything was okay at that point. Started but I noticed as she was moving things, she was using it as an opportunity to look in the back of our moving van and look at the things that were being brought out of it. Like she was always carrying things and just craning her neck to look at our shit. And I'm like, oh man. So anyway, she pulls me aside again before she leaves the first time. She goes, I saw dog food. She's like, I saw the guy carrying in some dog food. You have dogs? And I was like, all right, lady, we have a dog. And she's like, well, there's no pets. Absolutely no pets. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, there's no pets. It's all over the policy. Meanwhile, the only reason that we saw this house was a website where we went and searched for pet-friendly things, and it's labeled on the website where it's being offered for rent as pet-friendly. So I'm like, well, we thought there was, it was, big piece of land like this. And she's like, oh, I totally understand. We have dogs. I'm like, well, clearly you don't. So she's like, but anyway, I talked to her for a little bit, and she seemed like she was amenable to making some kind of deal with TJ. She was like, just have TJ call me. We'll work something out. I was like, okay, cool. No problem. Everything's fine. So I go and sit down. I get back on my stream, blah, 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 blah. About 30 minutes later, she leaves. She was going home. She leaves. So I go in the backyard, and I'm helping the movers and shit. 30 minutes later, the bitch shows up again. And she goes, all work has to stop, and I need your key right now. I need the key to the place. That it just isn't going to work. And I was like, well, all the work is done, and I don't have the key, so I don't know what you want me to do. So she basically, after everything had been moved from this house into the new house, as soon as that was done, she showed back up and decided that she didn't want to rent the house to us. So we were left with everything that we owned, all our possessions, every stitch of clothing, underwear, all the computers needed to make the money that we make, trapped in this fucking house.
Yeah, let me talk about that, because the whole thing was I went back there because I got that call about, you need to come over here and bring me my key to my house. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go over there and try to talk to this woman and see what's going on. And she's practically crying on the phone.
Like you're trying to smooth things. Okay,
yeah,
maybe I can salvage the situation.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to figure out what's going on here, and we're just going to explain this is just a miscommunication with the realtor who showed us this place and all this other stuff, and how, you guys got your sites listed pet-friendly everywhere else online and all this shit. So, but I'm talking to her on the phone, and she's basically like, I'm like, so I understand there's some problems. She's like, you have a dog. I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, I do. Is that an issue? Yes, it is an issue. It is a big issue. It says all over the lease, no dogs. There's one line in the lease that says, no pets, but it's at the owner's discretion. And I assumed that we had her fucking discretion because of what the fucking...
Because everyone we talked to said it was fine.
Because of what the real estate agents... it just looked like a form lease.
But it was not fine, of course.
So, of course, it's not fine, right? So I go over there, and we try to talk to her. I'm like, look, can we just stay here tonight? We got all our stuff set up here. We can just talk in the morning. And, she's like, this lease hasn't even begun yet. It's like the 28th at 9 at night. So the lease begins in 4 hours. And she's like, I need the key. And I'm really uncomfortable handing her this key because all my stuff is in her house. I'm like, and I don't know what the law is, I understand the lease doesn't technically begin, but we had her permission to move shit in on that day. So I ended up giving her the key. I'm like, all right, well, you have the key, but we're going to have to meet tomorrow morning and, talk about this and all this. And that night I just talked to Paul, and he's like, I don't even think we should try to come to any arrangement with this woman because she's nuts.
No, as soon as she came over and started beefing that first time, I knew why she was there. She wasn't there the shit that she was there to pick up was a bunch of junk. I literally, like, it was a broken fucking ceiling fan and pots, like, you know, those flower pots filled with dead plants. It's like, yeah, I got to pick up my dead plants and my broken ceiling fan. It's like, no, you just left a bunch of junk behind so you'd have a reason to come and watch us move in and look at our shit. And I just told TJ, I was like, that ain't going to stop. You come to an agreement with this bitch, she's going to be over here every month poking around. Oh, I just got to come and look at something I left out in the barn. Is that okay? Peek in your windows, see what you smoking any reefer in there? I hope not. There's a no reefer policy. It's just like, fuck this bullshit. Fuck this bullshit.
So the next day, so I just write her that night, and I'm like, okay, listen, bitch. I mean, I'm being polite.
I don't think you wrote listen.
I'm not saying listen, bitch.
You still had all our shit
You,
at this
you
point.
wrote you wrote listen cunt, right?
Yeah, it was listen, cunt.
Yeah,
you're
okay.
right. I'm sorry.
Let's be honest.
It was listen, cunt. No, I basically say to her, I'm like, listen, I don't think this is gonna work. Let's just, we already had a thing from the movers basically saying, hey, if this shit goes totally belly up, we'll help you move tomorrow.
They saw everything that went on, and those dudes were like coming to me before TJ got there that night. They were like, dude, this fucking cunt, man. I cannot believe. We talked to those dudes. Those dudes were some hardcore movers. Like, they did it all the time. They were like, I've never even heard of something like this. People move an entire house worth of shit into a house, and then the next day they're expected to move it all out again. He's like, I've never even... So, like, and that's everybody that I talk to has never even heard a story like that.
I mean, it's a ridiculous standard. I mean, to basically,
So we went over there-
basically not honor a lease you signed over a couple dogs or a dog. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So I go over there the next morning because we agreed to meet at 10:30 because that's when the movers could get back there. So we meet at 10:30. We got our movers back over there. I mean, it's only two guys. It's not like a whole moving crew or some shit. She meets me there with the keys, or she doesn't. I mean, she doesn't give me the key. She just unlocks the fucking house, you know, so that they can get in and get our shit out. At this point, I don't even know where we're moving the shit to. Like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to go get a storage unit somewhere or what. So we call the landlord at the house we literally just moved out of, who we came to an arrangement with him, like, hey, let's leave. We want to leave this lease early because this house has problems.
Yeah, and he was fine with that, so we were vacating early.
So basically, I had to call him that day and be like, hey, I know this is highly unusual, but you know that deal we came to that we were going to leave early? How about we just don't do that? And he's like, okay. I'm like, all right, we're going to move our shit back in then.
What a fucking doozy of a fucking day.
So day one, so basically, after days of packing our shit and moving it to a new place and setting everything up at the new place, the next day after the majority of our fucking shit was moved there, we're moving all of our shit back to the place where we just went, where we just came from.
Yeah, we just moved out of a place.
Another crazy thing is that when this fucking crazy bitch showed up at 10:30 in the morning, one of the first things she does is she's like, hey, I got some vodka in my car if you want any vodka.
It's like,
She's like, I know I need it today because I know this is stressful for both of us. And first of all, I'm like, I don't see how this is stressful for you at all.
yeah, what exactly is stressful about this for you,
You're just
bitch?
being a cunt. Number two, you're going to offer me vodka the day after you're kicking me out of the house I just moved into.
Yeah, at 10:30 in the morning.
And 3 at 10:30 in the morning. And 4, you've already been drinking it. And you're driving a car around. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's great.
I mean, and the road you drive on to get there is a fucking, like, pretty narrow country road. It's not like these are some spacious ass fucking roads.
I almost fucking just called 911 and was like, hey, there's someone driving on this road with this license plate that's fucking drunk and drinking vodka. I didn't.
That would have been great.
I didn't end up doing it, but I certainly wanted to. We spent all that day moving out. I couldn't fucking do shit but sit in a rocking chair on the front porch because during this whole ordeal, my back was out.
Yeah, TJ's like limping around like an old man.
I mean,
It still ain't right. But
So-
I couldn't do shit. There was the only thing that helps it is laying down. There was nowhere to fucking lay down. All I could do was sit in this hard ass rocking chair all day, watching nothing.
Oh my god!
It makes compounded everything that's bad about moving because it's like when you
I had
move.
to fucking call a bunch of before we moved in. I had to call and move all my services over there and schedule a bunch of appointments for garbage and fucking exterminators and all this shit. And that day, I had to call all of them back and explain that I'm no longer moving to that address and to move it back to my old address.
Oh my god!
What a fucking nightmare.
So basically, we spent fucking days and days moving
Yep.
to end up back in the same fucking house we started in.
Yep. And now, several days later, we're still digging through the rubble of our lives from 2 moves.
So basically, what happened is, if you just imagine that you're living in your house and you can fucking press a magic button that just throws all your shit in boxes and jumbles it around your house in a wild, mismatched way.
We called it a house bobble.
Yeah.
And it costs you fucking like thousands of dollars to push that button. And it fucking causes you like 3 days of just unremittent pain and bullshit.
Unremittent misery.
So it's expensive and it's miserable and it throws your life into fucking
TJ,
upheaval.
TJ, on the bright side, my move was inexpensive and no problems.
Yeah, I'm so glad that your shit went smooth, Scotty.
Dude, it was really smooth, TJ.
Smooth like butter.
We can talk about my smooth move if you like, TJ.
Smooth move,
My fucking,
Scotty.
the shit got moved. I
Yeah.
set up at the new place. I met my landlord. They were fucking cool. We moved all
That's
the shit
usually how a move
in.
should
We
go.
moved our shit in, and that was about fucking it.
Dude, I've never fucking...
Wait, when did you move it all back to the place you started?
That wasn't necessary, Paul.
What?
Yeah, I didn't need to.
That's crazy.
There's a shocking thing called people honoring the deals they make,
yeah.
and most people do that, but some people don't.
I've not found anyone who can tell me a similar story.
No.
I'm sure there's probably a story like that exists, but it's so uncommon.
I've never heard of anyone having to move all their shit to a new house and then move it all back to the house they just moved out of.
Yep.
I've never heard of that happening in all of human history. I'm sure it has.
I'm sure it has.
But our movers who had been moving shit for 10 years had never heard of it. So I'd imagine it's pretty goddamn rare.
As bad as it was, you guys dodged a serious fucking bullet, because that woman,
Oh, yeah.
like Paul said, would have been
She would have
living
been
hell.
up our fuck. If she hadn't seen those dog kennels that day, she'd have been back and she'd have seen something. Like, she was not going to be a hands-off fucking... And, like, that's part of leasing is, like, you have some reasonable expectation of privacy from the person that owns it, because you're living there. They're not. You know what I mean? Your fucking business and your life is there. You just can't have somebody that has such a sense of fucking ownership over the property that they want to come and walk it all the time.
Well, that was the thing. You told me that you found out at I think more towards the end that they were so attached to the
Oh
property.
yeah, when she was talking to me, she was like, we love it here. It's just so quiet, isn't it beautiful? I could tell it was like the first place that she and her wife bought together. They were in love with the place. They spent a bunch of money renovating it, and they wanted tenants to live there that were going to hover 6 inches above the ground and not leave behind any sign of their passing. And it's just like, it's not going to happen, lady.
No.
Like, that's the whole point of a deposit, is that when people move out, you have to repaint.
The other thing
fix
is
a few things.
that the thing about the dogs that was really fucking crazy is that when Chelsea ended up talking to this bitch and asking her about, the whole, they got to talk about the whole dog thing, and she's like, I understand, because we're animal lovers too, and when we lived in this house, we had 3 dogs and 7 cats.
They're not animal lovers, dude. Because if you're animal lovers, why would they give a shit?
Dude, who do they think they're going to rent this house to that, first of all, it's on fucking like 6 acres of land, or no, nearly 7 acres of land with a fucking barn and shit.
No animal policy.
But with a no animal policy. Like, who the
Why
fuck
would you-
wants that?
1, non-refundable pet deposit. 2, there's 7 fucking acres of land. They could have fucking if the dogs could have been let out easily to go to the bathroom, that wouldn't have even been a fucking issue.
I don't even think they were worried about him going to the bathroom. They seemed concerned that the dogs were going to like destroy their hardwood floor or some shit.
I mean, that's possible.
And I told her that I was like, lady, I was like, these dogs don't chew the floor. And she's like, well, I have a little dog and she got locked in a closet and she went crazy and just shredded the floor.
Why did you
lock
a dog in a closet?
You fucked up and locked your dog in a closet, dumbass. We don't do that, so it's not going to be a problem.
So anyway, we're looking into perhaps legal action. I don't know. We'll have to see on that. But I mean, that's if you guys want to know what the hell's been going on, why there's not been much new content on my channel or Cinema for Cynics or DFF, why everything's been kind of like dead lately.
That there you go.
That's pretty much why. Because our lives have been an insane mess of just total fucking nonsense for days on end.
A cavalcade of nonsense. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I feel like I've taken a huge dump letting all that out for one last time.
Yeah, I never want to... Let us never speak of this again.
Because I tell you what, dude, after that happened, I had to listen to everybody I knew retell that story to everybody they knew. I'd walk into the room just randomly, and TJ'd be like, so then the bitch walks up to Paul, and she's like, you got to get... And I'd be like, oh, yeah, he's at that point in the story now. Okay.
I mean, it's a crazy fucking story, dude.
It is.
I mean, you have to, I fucking totally empathize where I would not want to hear it, especially having you. I mean, 'cause you fucking bore the brunt of that woman's wrath too. I mean, that was another thing that was like, I heard that like Paul was basically just like at his wit's end. This woman was just harassing him about this.
Yeah, she acted like she wanted me to miracle all of our shit back onto the truck. That it took like 4.5 hours for the dudes to unload and set up.
I got a strong like bipolar fucking psycho vibe from that bitch, dude.
When she told me like I need all this to shut down and they need to stop and just pack your stuff, and I was like, there's no. It took them 4 hours to get this shit off this giant truck. They're not gonna reload it onto their truck. There's nowhere for us to take it. Do you not understand? Like we're moving here. We don't have a house. We don't have a fucking storage unit.
Oh, and then the next day, another thing is she kept fucking telling me how sorry she was, too. Like, luckily she wasn't there for the majority of the day, but whenever she did peek her fucking head around, it was always like, I'm so sorry for this. I'm so sorry. It's like, bitch, I'd rather you just remain a cunt.
I didn't go that day.
Don't try to pretend like you fucking feel some kind of sympathy for my plight now that you've caused this fucking bullshit.
I didn't go back that day because I knew that if she walked up to me with that shit, there was about a coin flip of a chance that I was going to tell her to go eat shit and die. So I was like, you know what? It's probably better for the smoothness of this for me to stay away from this.
Oh, man.
All right. Well,
I can tell you it was agony being there. Anyway... Let's talk about some crazy cultist bullshit.
Yeah, so you were saying somebody in the chat didn't even know who Jim Jones was.
When we were planning on doing this show live, we opened up the live chat, and the first comment that appeared was, "Who the fuck is Jim Jones? Looks like some kind of country singer."
Well, that's a good question.
Looks like some kind of goddamn country singer, you ask me.
He does kind of have that look about him.
Jim Jones.
Yeah, Jim Jones. So, yeah, I've had a kind of a fascination with Jim Jones as a figure since I learned about him in my teens. My mom told me the story of the Jonestown Massacre, and I went and read up everything I could find about it. And I've been kind of obsessed with Jim Jones. He was a very strangely charismatic figure. And the way that he turned people's best intentions into fuel for his own weird sexual perversions and his own weird power fantasies, and got so many people just subverted to his will.
You know the crazy thing about Jones that I read while I was researching was that he claimed to be the world's only heterosexual.
Yeah. He thought that everybody else in the world was secretly gay. And the reason that they were having such rampant heterosexual sex is because they were trying to cover up how gay they were. And that he was the only... and that whole thing, I guess we'll get into that, but there was a reason for everything that he did.
Yeah.
And that reason was so that he could have a flock full of horny women and men to pull from at any time and fuck. I mean... So, but yeah, Jim Jones, in order to understand, like, his psychology... you have to know a little bit about the people that inspired him when he was a young man to be the way that he was. One of them, I think, really needs no discussion or introduction. Jim Jones had a particular fascination when he was a young man, especially with the life of Adolf Hitler. So he was very impressed with the way that Hitler got people to follow him without question. And he definitely looked up to that. Another man that really influenced Jones, probably even more than Hitler, was this dude here on the screen, Father Divine. His name was Father Jealous Divine. That was not his real name. That's just the name that he chose for himself.
You know, a crazy story I read about a Father Divine was a judge actually sentenced him to something for being a public nuisance, and the judge suddenly died. And the line he would use about it was, "I'm sorry I had to do it." So, I mean, this guy really knew how to play any situation to his benefit. Obviously, the judge just died of natural causes or whatever.
But this Father Divine's theology was kind of based around the fact that he was God. He was, and he was an early 19th century evangelist, kind of a proto-civil rights figure. His whole platform wasn't about civil rights, but he was about all men being created equal. But the center of his theology was this weird kind of obsession with chastity, sexual purity, and the fact that he was Jesus reincarnated. And the way that Father Divine handled his flock was something that really taught Jim Jones how to handle his. And he took a lot of the different kind of peculiarities that Father Divine had and wove them into his own weird kind of paranoid life. So, Jim Jones is I guess we could read a little bit about Jim, some biographical information maybe.
Yeah, we could do that. I have, I don't think we want to get into the Jonestown Massacre yet. We could actually just listen to one of Jones's sermons here.
We could do that, yeah.
And I, God that came from the earth of earth, from the dust of this toilsome fields and the hardships of labor, from the lowest of economic positions, from the misery of poverty near the railroad tracks, I came to show you that the only God you need is within you. None other. That's my only purpose in being here. When that transition comes, there shall be no need for gods or any other kind of ideology, rituals, tradition, and religion. The opiate of the people shall be removed from the consciousness of all mankind. There shall be no longer further need for anything religious when freedom comes. There will be no need for concerns about the tomorrows, because every day will be heaven. We will have built the heaven that man has suppositionally dreamed about. We will have the heaven that we have been taught by the white masters would one day be given to us, that we might be able to shine somebody's shoes in the throne room. But we shall have our freedom here and now.
Yeah. All right. I believe in this guy. I'm following him, dude.
I mean, so basically taking the tenet of Christianity, which is you'll be rewarded when you go to heaven, and saying, fuck, you don't have to wait for heaven. You can have it now.
Well, he turned that whole religious impulse on its head. It was very brilliant the way he did it, because he got his foot in the door with people because of religion. But he realized he was living in a more modern time, the 60s, the 70s, when his church really started taking off.
Yeah, much more progressive time.
And he realized that people had misgivings about religion. And so he played upon that by drawing them in and saying, this is a new kind of church, a church that's about helping one another, taking care of each other like a family, exporting that kindness into the world in any way that we can.
Very socialist from the sounds of that.
Oh, absolutely. There was communism and socialism woven throughout his entire kind of philosophy on life. But he would pull them in with that kind of religious giving kind of message, and then once he had his flock, he would, one of the people that attended the People's Temple in San Francisco at the time described a scene one time where Jim Jones stood up and held the Bible up, and he said, this little black book has held black people back for 2,000 years. And he said, you want to know what this book is worth? And he said, total silence in the church, and he just reared back and threw the Bible as far as he could, and it landed down the aisle with a big hard slap, and you could hear a fucking pin drop in the room. And he said, that Bible has nothing for you. I am what you are here to pay attention to. we are why we're here. You know what I mean? So it was very subversive in that way. He brought people in with the religion, played on their misgivings about it to get them into this movement, gave them a personal stake in an ancient movement.
Well, you don't want them to obey the basic tenets of Christianity. You want them to, like that's the hook, but then they're going to be worshiping Jesus.
Right.
He wanted that worship. That's why ultimately, like you said, he has to hook them in, but then at that point, he's going to go, look, you don't need that. You need me.
A quote he would use in his sermons often was, if you need a friend, I'll be your friend. If you need a father, I'll be your father. And if you need a God, I'll be your God.
Yeah, I mean, there was a thing where, I mean, Father Divine, who was one of his inspirations, and also they were, I guess...
a huge inspiration.
I guess they were friends at one point and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
they actually...
One of Father Divine's big things is he was just like, I'm the Messiah, I'm Jesus, I'm returned. He even actually tried to... get some of Father Divine's church to kind of come to him afterwards.
Well, you're talking about after Father Divine died.
Yeah.
He showed up to his estate. And basically, I guess they were doing his will or something like that was going on. And Jim Jones tried to poach, and there was like a kind of a power struggle where he tried to take control of his flock.
He wanted to move people that were already psychologically prepared to accept a living man as divinity. You know, and I assume he probably got a few. Going out and recruiting was a big way that Jim Jones built his flock. He used to go on these bus tours all over the United States with people that were in his little commune. And, you know, they would fill these buses up with people at these meetings that wanted to go and change their lives and join this kind of socialist utopia commune in Ukiah, California.
And that was the time, and that's really the time he lived in, too, was the 60s and 70s. People really felt that. They really wanted to do things like that. That was the hippie movement. Like, you know, people really wanted to fucking just get on the road and travel and break away from the 50s and the other time period that had
Fuck the bonds of society.
Yeah, like
man.
There's a lot of appeal there.
He was very racially progressive too. It was an openly integrated church, a rainbow congregation. He was very, very particular about recruiting from the black community. This is what liberalism
leads to, folks. This is what liberalism leads to.
I always think it's funny, you're joking about that, but people do use Jim Jones as an example of why communism and socialism isn't bad. Like, they can ignore the man at the center of it and his weird paranoid machinations behind, you know, that didn't have any effect on it. No, just how socialism turns evil. You know?
I mean, this guy could have... I mean, this is a guy, obviously, who's charismatic enough that, you know, he could have used any sort of ideology, turned it on its head, and made it about serving him.
He was smart to use Christianity, though.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely smart, because a lot of the things that he was talking about are that kind of Jesus-like lifestyle, right? Charity and taking care of the elderly and the sick and the meek among you. That was very much what he was about. His commune was meant to be kind of a socialist paradise.
Do you think that he had a genuine concern for those things, or do you think it was just a means of controlling people?
Nobody's going to be able to answer that definitively for sure.
I just want to know your opinion.
I think that I think that he was using it as a means to an end. I think that the whole commune concept is attractive to these cult leader types because it separates people from society and immerses them in whatever your theology is, whatever bullshit you're spinning to them in your cult. And I mean, like, by the time we got to Jonestown, there were loudspeakers all over Jonestown that broadcasted sermons, either taped or live, from Jim Jones 24 hours a day.
Well, remember, a lot of our audience doesn't even know the twist ending of this story.
Of course, yeah.
What's crazy about
let's not reveal too much about how this all turns out, because I know some of them are genuinely in the dark.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jim Jones was really a great con artist in the sense that he really went for a group of people in the time that no one was really thinking about targeting. He was targeting these obviously more progressive people who a lot of people, because at that time in mainstream society, the people it was way more conservative. They were like, we're not going after these people. Jim Jones is going after black people. He was going after progressives. He was going after these groups that really, at the mainstream media at the time, just totally marginalized and ignored and said, who cares about these people?
Right. He tapped into the anger of the economically depressed, right? So the people that weren't making a lot of money, and you know, largely in the late 60s, early 70s, that was a lot of black people, especially in big cities. You had a lot of, you know, poverty in the inner cities, and he tapped into that and gave people an outlet. And, you know, he said, you don't have to live within this system that'll let you starve if you can't make a payment. You can come live with us. Come and let the fruit of your labor be your living situation. So you're only relying on these people.
Let's listen to a little more.
It's marvelous. And in the meantime, I come in the phenomena of religion to get people out of religion.
I love that quote. That's the end of this, I think.
Yeah,
little snippet, but I love that quote. I come in the phenomena of religion to get people out of religion. So you really see how he built up this kind of mystique of himself as a counterculture kind of icon, an iconoclast, right? Kind of tearing down all the traditions and all the bullshit in the book, and really kind of allowing people to tap directly into what they felt like was a very real positive movement. So, I guess, he moved his entire church. I guess we should talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
He started his congregation in, was it Idaho?
Indianapolis.
There you go, Indiana. Just, desolate wasteland of nothingness.
Middle America, not much going on.
And I think it speaks to his kind of paranoid personality type. He read an article in, I think, Popular Mechanics or something, talking about the prospect of nuclear war and places on Earth where people could survive if mass nuclear war broke out. And one of the things on this list of 5 places was Ukiah, California, which is this kind of remote, mountainous in the coastal range of California, is separated from everything, big redwood trees. And he moved his entire congregation from Indianapolis to California just on the basis that it would survive a nuclear attack.
We got to go here, y'all. We're going to survive the nukes.
Yet again, people were concerned about that. The Soviet Union, Soviet aggression.
Oh, yeah.
The Bay of Pigs. This is all in the cultural zeitgeist. So people at that time, that's not like saying to them now where it's like, hey, we might have a fucking, it's equivalent of sabreting with, let's say, like North Korea or something.
Yeah, I mean,
in people's mind, that was completely plausible.
It was a very real thing, but for him, it was a little more real than it should have been. You can see the edges of his paranoia, but it ended up being a smart move for him, because once he had his commune there, he could start his bus trips, where he would load up a few of his people on a bus and do these kind of whistle-stop tours of any church that would let him come up and speak. And he would challenge people right there at those meetings. Get on this bus. Get on the bus to freedom. He called it the bus to freedom. All you have to do is leave behind what you want. You got bills, don't pay them. You got things to take. You got a car, bring it with you. We'll use it. And he'd get people. He'd get people in every little city he went to, all up and down the coastal areas of California and Central Inland Empire.
You can see that appeal. I mean, especially poor working class people. Just leave it behind. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yep. And they would do it. People would just leave behind their whole fucking lives and go live with him on this commune. And eventually, he had so many people, because people would keep their jobs a lot of times and commute up to this commune in Ukiah, work for 12, 13 hours there, go back, work their job, and give their entire paycheck to the commune. So eventually they had enough money to set up a church in San Francisco, and that's when Jim Jones's star really started to rise in terms of a political figure.
Didn't you say that even like local politicians and stuff would reach out to him to try to generate crowds for their events and stuff, because they knew that his congregates were so devoted that he could just fill anywhere he needed to with like 300 or 400 people, just like that.
Yeah, his church and message grew so rapidly that he rapidly became a political figure in California. And people would, if they were willing to work with him, he was very smart politically, so he would pick candidates that shared his kind of far left ideologies or were willing to make concessions on that. And then he'd say, if you're ever doing a rally and you want 700 people, I can do that. And he would do it. He'd deliver. 700 people would show up on a bus. Bus loads of people from the People's Temple with signs ready to go to make it look like there was a real political movement happening for this candidate. And it worked. And it garnered him a lot of power. There are pictures of Jim Jones with all kinds of political figures from the time on the California stage and the national stage. I mean, he was a real power player in politics. And behind the scenes, he was getting ever more and more dysfunctional. As he got more and more control over his flock and it grew, he began to exert more and more strange control over them.
What's the saying? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yep. So I mean, imagine being him and the power trip you would feel saying, "Oh, you want 700 people to show up to your rally? Oh, I can make that happen."
Oh, easy peasy.
I mean, that would go to anyone's head.
You got totally devoted fucking people.
Yeah.
They're gonna do anything you tell them to do.
That's like saying,
they basically think of you as God.
That's like saying, like, you have this problem with this house. That's like you just going to someone in your flock and saying, you have this big house, I'm going to live there now.
Yeah.
And you're going to give me all your money. And they're just going to go, yep, TJ, I'm signing over the deed to you now, and here's my bank account, and just take whatever you want, and I just bow before you.
There's really strong evidence that Jim Jones was bisexual. And
despite claiming to be the only heterosexual man on earth.
Yeah, he would.
Well, that's weird.
There are tons and tons of stories from ex-congregants of his about him approaching them after services, calling them into his chambers, and sexually molesting them in various ways. And this went on and on for years and years and years.
So he did this to both male and female congregants.
It's a very common thing in cults to have this happen. It's not uncommon at all. If you've ever studied anything about cults, like not even the big cults, just any cult, sexual molestation and pedophilia and all this stuff is just really commonplace, because you have to think that this is an outlier group. Like Paul said, you're not really, in a lot of cults, you're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to communicate with the outside world, especially children and younger people. So it's like he can do whatever he wants. I mean,
right.
And he's insulated and protected by this group that he's formed. So Jim Jones could get away with it. Jim Jones.
You definitely saw that with the branch. You didn't really see that too much with Heaven's Gate, because they all castrated themselves.
Yeah. But and it really shows why he wove this like chastity theology and through why he was very big on people not giving over to pleasures of the flesh, because he realized psychologically that if he had the people that were closest to him horny as fuck, that when he came to them and he was like, "Hey, how's about you come over here and let me fuck you in the butt," and that's how he would come to people. There's a quote from one of the survivors of his church that says, he came to him one time after service and was like, "How would you feel if Father fucked you in the butt? How would you like? Would you like that if Father fucked you in the butt?" He had his congregants call him Dad or Father.
So he's just like, "Yeah, how would you like Father to fuck your butthole?
Yeah.
How would you like that? Is it about time for that?" And you're just like, you're not allowed to even like jerk off or something, I'm assuming. So you're just like, "Yes, please."
Yeah.
So TJ would
anything.
So TJ definitely would have fucking been a Jim Jones follower. Is what you're saying?
He'd have been like, "Yes, Father can fuck my butt."
I'd have been like holding the sign in the fucking pews.
Father, fuck my butt.
Fuck my butt, Father.
And he'd just be like, "Not you.
Yeah.
You're more like a fucking harvest drone or some shit."
I think
TJ, you can work the fields.
I think you've got another video that has some of his sermonizing on it.
Yeah, I do have some sermons here. There's a few more sermons.
If you're going to commit treason, you better be sure you know what you're dealing with. Because after we were all dead over here, you might go to a social party after you're trying to get your little reward, your little 30 pieces of silver for selling out the greatest people on earth. And you walk in with the Judas tribe, and the wife of Judas might be one of the ladies I'd laid to make a socialist.
What?
Yeah.
He's talking about snitching, basically. He's talking about how, if you're out there and you've got ideas different from what I've been telling you up here, and you tell people, you never know who you're talking to. The lady that you tell that I'm crazy, that my theology is wrong, might be somebody that I've already recruited to be a socialist. He's bragging about how his reach.
Okay.
She might give you slow poison in your champagne. You don't know how clever I am. One thing you've all done is underestimate me. I made plans for treason long ago because I knew I couldn't trust nothing. I knew I couldn't trust anything but communism and the principle in me, yes, Westfield. I knew that that's what I had to depend upon, not depend upon the arm of the flesh, and never put all your eggs in one basket. So, honey, I put my eggs in many places. You figure that out if you want to.
So this is just him standing in front of his congregation saying, if there's anybody out there having thoughts that are bad about me, I know already. I got people out there listening to you, watching you. I made plans for treason long ago.
This guy's got his, to use a Game of Thrones term, he's got his little fucking birds everywhere. He's got his little fucking cheep,
Yep, the Master whispers.
Guess what? Guess what this person said about you? Oh, okay. So he cultivated, with his paranoia, he cultivated a tribe of paranoia.
A little bit of eerie foreshadowing there, too. Him talking about how he might poison their wine one day or something.
Some of you too naive, you don't know what Jim Jones is all about. You can't even follow him. You haven't even smelled where he's at yet, much less followed him. You don't even know who he is, and you might miss him if you didn't have
It
a
almost
real
strikes
good...
me like a wrestler, dude. Jim Jones. You don't know what Jim Jones is about?
I'll
tell you what Jim Jones is about.
He cut promos for himself all the time. I mean, it's very, he was a showman first and foremost.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can just totally tell. I mean, this is what he's saying comes across as a very rehearsed act. It's not something that, like, he just showed up. Like, you could tell this was very rehearsed and practiced, and he knew his mannerisms. Like Paul told us a story about, I think I'm probably good now, about the Bible. When he threw the Bible.
Oh, yeah. I told that already.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. We talked about that. Okay. But, yeah, I mean, very much knew how to work the crowd and, sort of exported his paranoia onto his flock and had them all kind of working as agents for him and second-guessing their own misgivings about what was going on. So, kind of textbook cult stuff. But he was very good at it. Very persuasive.
Look at him, you wouldn't even know who he looked like. You really haven't got next to him, but I've got all kinds of things in store.
Yeah. I love how they're applauding basically being threatened.
Yeah.
I could do anything to you.
Well, why wouldn't they?
You fuck with me, I'll destroy you. Yeah! Woo!
I mean, you're not in a position when he's, fucking sermonizing you to go, oh, okay, actually I have a problem with this.
But hey, Jim, this bullshit,
yeah,
dog.
I disagree.
I disagree, Jim.
Well, you know how it is when you get in a group. I mean, the group mentality, the mob mentality, no one's going to sit back and go, hey, guys, and even if you do, you're just going to be drowned out by the mob. Shut up!
Not only that, but he's up there preaching to them that if you do that, I'm going to know about it, and I've got ideas for you. We're not going to tolerate that kind of dissent and treason around here. So it's like, not only are they afraid to be the asshole, they're afraid in general.
Yeah, they're afraid for their fucking physical safety. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to them?
You who are stupid piss ants and reptiles and lower than the primates, you can make a whoopee if you want. But your whoopee makes me sicky. And so you can make your whoopee while I do something that's far more significant. I got me some big plans. Both here, there, and everywhere. Got lots of plans.
Very nebulous, too. Like, you can definitely tell that, like, he left things very vague.
I mean, most of these guys do. I mean, like, a lot of these fucking cult people, they speak in riddles and cryptic messages and bullshit because then people read whatever they want into it,
Exactly, because you can all obviously read more into it. You're always questioning what did he mean.
He had a lot of credibility with people, though, because he was not all talk. He built that fucking self-sustaining, communist, proto-communist commune in Ukiah, and he could take people up there and say, look, all of these people live on this patch of land, and everything that we eat and everything that we need is raised and grown here. We don't need any outside, so he wasn't all talk. He could show people the fruits of his labor and the labor of his church.
Oh, there's no way he would have been this successful without that, because
no, leader.
If people question, like you said, like people have doubts, just come out here and look.
Yeah, you can come and see how people are living.
Look at all these happy people. Oh, I'm so happy, and that's a big thing too. Is not only did he personally testify to you, I'm sure they met other people. That's why he brought other people with him. Had already fucking bought into this.
Oh, they're already his rabid sycophants. So they're gonna have nothing but praise to say. So they were all out recruiting for him too. It was just, he was fantastic.
Like this bitch here, just like, I believe in Jim Jones.
Well, that was a political movement. That was one of the like a kind of a civil rights protest sign that people would hold up in San Francisco during rallies and at political events. And it kind of reveals like how he wanted people to perceive him.
As the new Messiah.
Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed. If I had hated a little more, just a little more, we would have had a little less trouble. Because I look at my faults analytically. Sure, you got to love principle, but don't say, hate is my enemy. What did they say? What's that words? Hate is my enemy. I got to fight it day and night. And what else is the line? Love is the only weapon. Shit! Bullshit! Martin Luther King died with love. Kennedy died talking about something he couldn't even understand, some kind of generalized love, and he never even backed it up. He shut down. Bullshit! Love is the only weapon with which I got to fight. I got a hell of a lot of weapons to fight. I got my claws, I got compasses, I got guns, I got dynamite, I got a hell of a lot to fight. I'll fight, I'll fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight.
Yeah, that's not fucking terrifying.
Wow. So I guess we can start building up towards
I think
the arc here.
Yeah, like, so, I think you can kind of see where this is going. I mean, like, they say love's the only weapon. Bullshit!
Yeah.
You're going to go and do his Sam Kinison impersonation. Before Sam Kinison, I guess. But they both came from that preaching tradition, so I guess that makes sense.
Kinison talked about being inspired by listening to the sermons of Jim Jones when he was a preacher.
I could see it, because, man, that was crazy.
So at the height of his power, at the height of his political influence, of course, somebody that has that kind of power is going to draw investigative journalists like moths to a flame. And that's what happened with Jim Jones. Local San Francisco and California statewide newspapers started digging around and started finding some very worrying things. The most worrying among them, allegations of sexual misconduct by Jones against his flock. They found a few disaffected members that were willing to go on the record and say that Jim Jones had sexually molested them, raped them, whatever. These questions started to grow, and Jim Jones had been planning for this to happen because he knew, he was smart enough, a sociopath and psychopath, to know that he wasn't going to be able to keep doing what he was doing forever. And so he had kind of quietly been buying up land in the kind of remote South American country of Guyana, with a plan to move his congregation there where there was nobody to watch what he was doing. And not a great plan, but that was his plan. So he, when the investigative reporters started to kind of close in on him, he started preaching to his followers about how they all needed to move, how the government was going to crack down on them and kill them because they were political revolutionaries. And in order to save their lives, they needed to come with him to Guyana and create a commune there.
Yeah, probably create their paradise.
And that's exactly what happened. They all, not all, many of his congregation was not willing to go with him, but a startling number of people, numbering over 1,000 people,
are willing to move suddenly to South America.
Leave everything they knew, everyone they knew behind, and move to a shitty little patch of jungle in a country that most of them had probably never heard of. So, of course, these people had friends. They had family members who, when they disappeared, were very concerned about the implications of this weird political figure moving his entire flock to a place where nobody could watch what was going on. So they started complaining to law enforcement, filing missing persons reports, and eventually that got up to a California congressman.
Yeah, what happened was there was a couple that Jim Jones liked to take credit for, like, kids that might have been his, might have not have been, but there was like I think it was like a lawyer and like his wife or something, and Jim Jones claimed to be the father and took the child to Guyana, and so that's what got this congressman. What was his name? Leo? Was it Leo Ryan?
Yeah, Leo Ryan.
Yeah, Leo Ryan. Got
This is
involved.
the congressman here on the screen.
Congressman Leo Ryan.
Who was known as like a maverick, kind of out there. Like, he went to Canada to investigate SEALs being killed. Like, he was just kind of.
He was known for going on these, like,
he was
they were called fact-finding missions. He called them that. A lot of people, his opponents called them political stunts. But one of the most storied ones was there was a big debate going on in California about prison and the conditions in prison for the prisoners. And so he had himself actually committed to a prison for an entire, I think it was 2 weeks, and lived like a prisoner so that he could see firsthand. Now, I'm pretty sure he had special guards and shit, but he was a very hands-on guy. And when he caught wind of what Jim Jones had done and the weird allegations of sexual misconduct and cult-like behavior that were swirling around him. Kidnapping, this child being taken. He decided to go down to Guyana on a fact-finding mission to see with his own eyes what this commune was like and what was going on, what the conditions were, and what the people there thought.
And I believe they said that Jim Jones really did not want to allow him to go to the commune, but eventually relented and said.
We actually have some footage of the congressman giving a speech from Jonestown, I believe.
This is actually this begins with just some. You can play it. It begins with some stock footage of the actual compound, people walking around, and it ends with an excerpt.
So let's take a little look around the compound that Jim Jones set up in Guyana.
Yep. So these are news cameras that captured Jones as the congressman was walking around talking to people.
So this is the society they were all living in.
Yep.
Street signs.
It is a congressional inquiry. I think that all of you know that I'm here to find out more about questions that have been raised about your operation here. But I can tell you right now that from the few conversations I've had with some of the folks here already this evening, that whatever the comments are, there are some people here who believe that this is the best thing that ever happened to them in their whole life.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah!
Some serious applause, which you would expect.
This moment, it's kind of hard to see because we had it kind of shrunk down, but Congressman Ryan's face actually visibly cracks with emotion when the people stand up and start cheering. He doesn't fully start crying, but you can tell he's on the brink. He was very, very moved by the outpouring of love and support amongst one another that he saw that first day that he was there, and was probably ready to travel back to the United States the next day and give a thumbs up type of report and say, man, yeah, these people have a right to live how they want to live, and let's leave them alone.
Yeah, and they're all kind of happy, and they're living in this commune, and, you know, most of these people here are actually satisfied living there. I mean, you saw that. I mean, that's thunderous.
I mean,
applause.
yeah. I mean, that was the applause of a group of people that anybody walking in from the outside would believe that they were just absolutely overjoyed to be there.
Oh yeah.
But Ryan decided he stayed the night there at Jonestown.
Let's dig a little deeper. Yeah.
And the next day, he was planning on, spending a little time with the people and then flying out and going home and giving his positive report. But somebody walked up to him at one point and shook his hand, and he left a note in his palm. And the note said, "Please help us. We're not allowed to leave. We don't want to be here. There's a lot of us here that want to leave, but we're afraid." And that once that one note was passed, there were several more that were passed to the congressman directly and to adjuncts of the congressman that were there, cameramen, assistants. And he started realizing that there was something going on. Now, Jim Jones, being the paranoiac that he was, of course, pretty soon after these notes started being passed, knew that they were being passed. And so he started giving speeches and, in fact, told Congressman Ryan straight to his face, anybody that wants to leave can leave. I don't want anybody here. I don't understand why people would feel like they're being kept here, but that's never been my policy. Anybody that wants to leave is free to leave. But Congressman Ryan and the people that were with him noticed something else once Jim Jones knew about the notes being passed. The peaceful socialist utopia hippie commune that yesterday was filled with dancing people, filled to the brim with love, was now filled with people brandishing guns. Just everywhere at the edge of the perimeter of the camp, everywhere he looked, was somebody with a look of anxiety on their face holding a very large gun. So, of course, Congressman Ryan and his group thought, now's about the time for us to get the fuck up out of Dodge.
Time to fucking go.
Time to go.
Let's head back to that airstrip. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, now they're not in a fucking developed country, so there's no like big airport in Guyana near this fucking place. It's a little tiny jungle airstrip in the middle of nowhere. The congressman and his entourage pulled up to the plane. The plane started its engines and they started to load it up. And as they were loading up, a large dump truck pulled onto the tarmac. And they all were looking at it thinking it was, maintenance or some shit. And as they stood there looking at the dump truck, a bunch of people just popped up out of the back with guns and just started. It was like an Old West shootout, but one way. And they just riddled that entire thing with gunfire. The congressman and many of the people with him were killed in the attack.
Congressman Ryan was killed. 3 journalists were killed, and a defecting member of the People's Temple was killed as well.
They did bring people with them that wanted to leave because, according to Jim Jones, like he said, no, they can leave.
9 others were wounded. Apparently, the wife of one of Ryan's aides was called that night and was told, tell your husband that his meal ticket just had his brains blown out and he better be careful. So after they killed the congressman, they called his aide, got his wife, and said, yeah, your husband's meal ticket is fucking over and he better watch his back too because we might kill him as well.
Right.
So there's not... you know, they're already they're basically taking the stance at that point of like, we're gonna fucking fight the U.S. government. We're gonna take them on. We're gonna kill all these key politicians and all this other shit.
They pretty much declared war when they killed congressmen.
Yeah, you kill a congressman.
I mean,
and
however they felt, the U.S. government would have felt about Jonestown and Jim Jones before. They knew afterwards how they felt about him, which is he's going to be. He has to be dealt with.
He absolutely made himself a top priority.
God.
I mean, you can't fucking assassinate a U.S. fucking congressman.
Right. So
I think you're going to get away with it.
And once again, Jim Jones was a smart enough sociopath to know that you can't kill a U.S. congressman at your place on official government business and expect to continue on like nothing happened. And Jim Jones had actually psychologically prepared his flock for what came next over the course of months there at Jonestown. He would have this little ritual with them where he would pass out something for all of them to drink at the beginning of the service and would not start the sermon until everyone had drunk dry the drink that they were given. And then he would tell them, as soon as everybody had drained their drink, I've just fed you poison, and you're all going to die. Now, the first time he did this, people, of course, started weeping in the aisles and screaming, because he had, you heard in that sermon before, he had talked about poisoning them before.
Oh, yeah.
So he had already planted the seed of this in their minds. And then once they were all weeping and crying for the children that were going to die, because he would make the kids drink it too. He would wait till they were all in a frenzy, and then he would say, that was a loyalty test. There was no poison. You're fine. You're not going to die. Your babies are not going to die. I was just making sure that when the time comes, if that's what it comes to, you're willing. And he would do this over and over again until these people were kind of prepared for what came next. So
they were just poison yourself drills.
Yes. To soften the idea of subverting your entire life to this man's will.
Let's listen to Jim Jones's final speech to his congregation.
Jim Cobb is laying on the airfield dead at this moment. Remember, the Oliver woman said she come over and kill me if her sons wouldn't stop her. These are people, the peddlers of hate. All we're doing is laying down our life. We're not letting them take our life. We're laying down our life. We're taking their lives. We just want peace.
All I'd like to say is that my so-called parents was filled with so much hate. And treachery. I think you people out here should think about how your relatives was and be glad about that the children are being laid to rest. And all I like to say is I thank Dad for making me strong to stand with it all and make me ready for it. Thank you.
Be happy that these children are being
all the children taking it.
So basically, he did another suicide drill with his flock. Brought out big vats of an off-brand Kool-Aid called Flavor Aid.
Yeah, Flavor Aid.
Flavor Aid.
And
laced with cyanide.
Laced with massive doses of cyanide poison. And he had his congregation feed it to the children first, so that he made sure that all of them were taken care of. And then once the children had all drunk and taken a lethal dose, he had the adults start doing the same thing. And they did. By and large, most of the people that were there at Jonestown stayed loyal to him to the very end and killed themselves. Now, there's a question amongst, and it's a philosophical question, it's a legal question. Was it an act of suicide or was it an act of murder? Right? He had such psychological domination over these people, and this is a picture here of
the aftermath.
Of the aftermath. All of those things scattered on the grounds are people. Most of them laying on their backs or face down, just dead. And this is the scene that investigators found when they came back to the compound after hearing what happened to the congressman and his entourage. And when you have that level of leadership over people to the point where they've subverted their entire lives and all of their will to you, you have a responsibility, I think, to not give them orders that are going to harm them. And I think that takes away the suicide argument totally.
Yeah, if anyone's wondering how many people actually committed suicide, I think were killed, it was 906 people.
Actually, before 9/11, it was the worst act of mass murder or mass killing since Pearl Harbor.
Right.
I mean, it was just insane.
I mean, so you can imagine how crazy people went on 9/11 when, I think it's 1,500 people died that day. I mean, it was on par with that when this happened. It was an absolutely unfathomable tragedy. Just the number, 900 people, women, children, men, all age groups, just face down in the mud in some fucking foreign country. All of them Americans. So just an absolutely fucking unconscionable national tragedy. And really kind of an example of the power of charisma, I think.
It was about 27,000. It's not 27,000, 2,700 that died in 9/11.
9/11, okay.
Yeah.
But, before Pearl Harbor, between Pearl Harbor and 9/11, the biggest mass killing of Americans was Jonestown.
Yep.
And it's got to be the biggest mass suicide of all time, right? I mean,
maybe not all time.
What's interesting
yeah,
is
maybe there was some
what's
other
interesting
thing.
to me is let's say you're playing a game. Example, the big example of me would be Fallout, and let's say your speech is at 100. It's like, what can you accomplish? And to me, this is the ultimate way to put it to real life. Jim Jones had that ability to talk to people, to connect with people, to tell people they wanted to hear, to play on their primal fears, and to understand the human psychology, to prime people. He was just a master of it, and this is the end result. I mean, he said he realized, hey, we killed the congressman, we did this. Instead of instead of me going down, just me, because he knew that was going to happen at that point.
Oh, of course.
Everyone should just die. This is what needs to happen. They're not going to take us.
Yeah, he told them that was what was going to happen anyway. He was like,
Yeah.
you think they're just going to come and get me? You're wrong. They're going to take your babies. They're going to take you. Don't let them do that. This is what he was filling their heads with.
I'm looking at mass suicides throughout history, and it looks like most of them are basically done under this same pretext of
religious cults.
No, I mean actually the angle of we're about to be invaded by an opposing force, and it's better for us to just die than to be captured by them
on our own terms.
Yeah, so that's actually happened quite a few times. Now there are of course some other religiously motivated. This is kind of in between those two, because they were probably. I mean, the U.S. government was definitely coming.
Oh yes,
so
in a big way.
Yeah. It looks like the funny thing too is Jones didn't take the cyanide himself.
Nope.
He shot himself.
It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound that killed him. I guess he didn't want to suffer as much as his congregation.
He didn't want to feel his body dying like his congregation had to.
He considered it an act of revolutionary suicide. I mean, really, it was just kind of his ultimate, I think, middle finger to the establishment that he'd rallied against his whole life, to just show, look, this is the extent of the control that I had over these people. They were basically my puppets. I no longer need them because my life is over. So it's almost like the pharaoh who has his slaves entombed with him.
They were disposable at that point.
Yeah.
He no longer had a need for them, so they might as well die too.
Now he told them some kind of shit about how this was like a doorway to a new life or some shit.
Yeah.
Wasn't part of his preaching though that that heaven was bullshit and he was going to bring about heaven on earth?
I mean,
did it just morph in that time? Based on the needs of his machinations.
I think that he wove into his theology this idea that if they tried to create that heaven on earth, they had earned their place in heaven after. And as people were lining up to the vats, a lot of them were crying. And there's one point that speech is very long and rambling, and there's no way to kind of capture everything that he said. But at one point, he tells them, don't be this way. Don't do this crying. This is not, death is just stepping through a door. It's like walking through a door. You got tired and you lied down in your bed, and that's all it is. We're just tired. We're tired of fighting. We fought till the last, and we did the best we could, and now it's time to lay it down. Walk through the door. So he just kind of, delegitimized life at the end, to the point where,
People are like, all right, yeah, the Kool-Aid, that sounds like a good option.
But yeah, that was the birth of that political term, drinking the Kool-Aid. Started with Jonestown, the idea of somebody that is a true believer that just believes.
But of course, it should be drinking the Flavor Aid.
Right, it should be, but Kool-Aid sounds better.
Doesn't come off the tongue.
There's a reason why Flavor Aid's the off-brand, you know.
I wonder if Kool-Aid is happy about that or not.
I don't think so.
Nobody's really happy about it. I mean, the people that survived it talk about how it's a really offensive term to them because it really kind of, you know.
I want to see the Kool-Aid guy pop out behind Jim Jones and be like, oh, yeah, Kool-Aid.
But yeah, so anytime you hear somebody saying somebody else is drinking the Kool-Aid,
that's what they're
you have
talking
Jim
about.
Jones and the People's Temple to thank for that.
And they're basically saying, you've seeded your brain over to something else.
To an ideology.
You'll believe anything that you're told from this figure. You've, subverted your own critical thinking to another person entirely.
All of you Jordan Peterson fans might want to take note.
Yeah, take note.
Just when the day that Jordan Peterson comes out and offers you the fucking poison Ovaltine or whatever his shit's gonna be, just remember the tale of Jonestown and Jim Jones.
The poison fucking Crystal Light.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, nothing. I mean, obviously, one of the biggest ritual suicides ever, other than like some historical ones about people killing themselves before invaders could come to their territory.
Yeah.
But in modern times, definitely the biggest. There was a few others like the Heaven's Gate cult. Some of you guys might remember that. Something called the Solar Temple. I guess 74 people killed themselves. Few other fucking big. There haven't really been too many of these though. Of these mass suicides.
They're relatively rare, but not rare enough that it's not disquieting how successful people have been at getting people to do this.
Just looking at the sheer amount of like bodies here, you even see if you look at this picture right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse right here, but there's like even dead animals here.
Yeah,
like they literally killed the animals as well. They're just like, the animals are dead. We're all dead. I mean, just looking at all these people and realizing that every single one of them just voluntarily is like, okay, I'll die now.
Well, not the children.
Oh yeah, well the children.
The children were forced.
Yeah, they had no
the
idea.
children had no but all these adults.
Yep.
Made the decision. I mean, they were all obviously completely brainwashed and under the spell of a very charismatic cult leader. And but I mean, just the imagining being part of that, and there's people actually rejoicing and saying like, when I think of my parents being so filled with hate, I'm just glad to be leaving this world. We should be glad that the children's is dead.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like how, I mean, like the fact that people can be warped to that extent. I mean, I guess this isn't even the most prominent example in history, but it's a very fucking recent example. It just kind of shows how you can take people who are hopeless or disenfranchised in some way and just subvert their will and put yourself as some sort of godlike figure. I mean, obviously not everyone could do what Jim Jones did, but I'm saying that there's a potentiality for that.
If you don't think you can be manipulated or conned or convinced of something, any person can. You're wrong.
Oh yeah.
And it's just to what degree and what level.
I mean, if you look at some of the interviews with the people that got out that survived this, they're not idiots. You know what I mean? These are not morons. These are not like, I just did it to with you. Like these are like reasonable people who have critical faculties.
It'd be easy. I mean, like if it was just like, hey, it's a bunch of stupid fucking retards.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll just kill myself now.
Poison Kool-Aid sounds refreshing.
No, these were all intelligent people that thought they were doing the right thing. And that's the fucked up thing, is that all
believed
of these
in something.
Reasonably intelligent people that believed in helping each other and helping other people.
And who basically joined a movement that was about, let's all help each other, let's all be, charitable and all this other stuff. And, I mean, it wasn't even, I think the true tragedy of it is that he wasn't playing exclusively on the worst nature of human beings. He was actually playing a lot to the better nature of human beings. And this is the fucking result.
Yep.
This is the fucking result. Just fields of dead.
Yeah, a literal acres of dead.
A fucking mass grave. That's all it really is. A mass fucking grave.
Pretty fucking horrifying.
So that's tonight's DFF. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember that we will be doing a Friday episode for patrons only. So if you're a patron, be sure to keep your eye on the Patreon. People have asked me, hey, if I become a patron now, can I see this Friday show? Unfortunately, that's not how our Patreon works yet. It doesn't charge till the end of the month. So
if we do get that feature released to us, then we will update you guys.
I'm going to actually be writing Patreon and asking about trying to get that feature for us and explain how it's so important to us. But for now, if you want to see the Friday shows for next month, you got to become a patron this month.
And we do plan on having an archive.
Yeah, eventually your patronage will get you access to an archive of all of the Friday shows.
Yes.
So we're working on that as well.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff in the works. We'll be making further announcements as we go. But we look forward to seeing all of you patrons for our Friday show. And if you want to get in on our patronage, you can start watching the Friday shows next month. And we will have an archive of the shows from this month so you can see them eventually.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Crazy show. A lot of crazy shit going on in our lives, but not nearly as crazy as the shit that the people in Jonestown went through.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Definitely not.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, everybody.
Don't drink
Cheers.
the Kool-Aid.